I think I'm going to call the meeting to order. Bill and I both have commitments around 6:30, so we're going to try and aim for a hard stop at about 6:15, if at all possible, this evening. So with that, I will call the meeting to order. This is the Town of Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission regular meeting. It's Wednesday, March 15th, and the time is 5:05 p.m. So, without further ado, I'll jump into the agenda. We have election of officers on the agenda was deferred from our last meeting when we didn't have a full complement of members. We do not again tonight without Amy here. So I'm going to propose that we defer again for another month until we have everybody here. I would be okay doing it hybrid if we had everybody in attendance, but if there's a consensus that you want to press on with election of officers, we can entertain that. But if there's not objection, I'm going to propose that we defer it, and I am willing to continue in my role for another month. And Jen, you okay for another month?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that? I don't think we need a motion.
No. The only thing I would suggest, should Amy come in, would we be able to come back to this?
This is a regular meeting, so right. we can modify the agenda on the fly.
So you're just going to suspend the election of officers?
We're just going to defer it till our next regular meeting.
Or until we get a quorum?
Until we get a quorum. Well, we have a quorum. We don't have as full attendance, and I prefer to have full attendance, so that everyone has the opportunity.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that's going to get deferred. It's item 2, deferred. Pending full attendance. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. There is no one here with us in the meeting hall. I don't know if there's anyone else on the phone line, but at this point I will open up. Everyone is unmuted on the phone line, so if anyone is on the line that has public comment, please make yourself known.
Well, I'm on the phone line, but I don't have any comment this time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment. Okay, agenda item 5 is approval of minutes. We have the February 15th, 2023 regular meeting minutes up for approval. I'll entertain a motion for discussion purposes to approve those.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Bill, thank you. Okay, any discussion, modifications to the minutes?
I think they look good.
Okay, hearing none. We can put it to a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of February 15th, 2023, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained?
It wasn't here.
Okay. One abstention. Bill Bluzzi abstained. And I noticed in my zeal to get through the agenda, I skipped item 4, which is correspondence, and I have none to report.
None here.
Any other?
I have none.
Okay. Moving right along. And get into the thick of it here, the updates. So general updates, I have none. No major activity in February. It's a slow month. Everyone was hunkered down, I guess. Under projects, so our standing item on the McCulloch Family Open Space Affordable Housing Option. The open item, the biggest open item we have right now is getting feedback from council on 3 major questions. One is the specific items that need to be completed in order to exercise the option. The second is feedback on if so, how we can either assign or otherwise apply the ARPA grant that we received through a third party, assuming that we engage a third party to develop properties. And the third item that was presented to the town attorney was advice on how to ensure that we have an unimpeachable level of transparency in the selection process, whether that be an RFP, an RFQ, and actually got some feedback on that, which I'll share with you shortly. That went to the town attorney. He assigned Attorney Carey, which is Mike Carey, who's part of the firm that represents Old Lyme. He was actually directly involved in the ARPA committee and sits right next to the gentleman that Rich Cody, who was involved in actually doing the McCulloch family open space acquisition. So he had a busy month and didn't make a lot of progress. I talked to him yesterday. He had been out of town, but he did offer some feedback on a couple of things. So one is he's collected documents for the original documents for the acquisition, and there's no magic to what it's going to take to complete to completely exercise the option. So he's just going to he'll write that up for us, and it'll be what it'll be. Doesn't expect it to be anything major. No surprises expected, but he's going to go through it. On the second item, which is the assignment of the ARPA grant to a third party, or otherwise being able for us to direct expenditure of the ARPA grant towards the project. That is actually contemplated in the contract that we were given, and he has a copy of the contract and is going through the language on it, and he actually was the attorney that handled this. So this is again where he doesn't see any showstoppers. We just need to know what the answer is and what the recommended path will be to do that, whether it's an assignment, whether we manage some of the dispersals through the finance department here, or how it all works. But so far, no red flags, and it looks like we'll be able to apply those funds to it. Regarding ensuring the transparency of the process for selecting a partner. We had a brief discussion about that. He asked me the question on, is this going to be a bidding thing? What do you expect what's the mechanism's going to be? And I told him that the expectation would be that the third party would acquire the parcels. He asked if the compensation for that was going to be subject to bidding, and I said probably not, because we don't want to raise the price that we expect to reimburse the open space fund, because as the price gets higher for the land, that's going to be passed on to the eventual owners, and then we're already flirting with the limits of affordability given the cost of the land, the mortgage costs, construction costs. So the expectation is that we'll get the $100,000 back, no more, no less. And so going out in some sort of bidding process or request for proposals, this is all preliminary. It'll get written up for us, but so that probably is less likely. And either a request for qualifications, and he introduced the notion that we might want to have a documented, expanded solicitation for this, some outreach to find other developers that would achieve that end of having an unimpeachable level of transparency with the process. So he's working on that. It's all still pending. Our next milestone on this project that we put actually in the grant application is to have a committee formed up by June 1st. So I think we can make that. If we have our advice back in the next couple of weeks, we can circle the wagons with the Board of Selectmen and Open Space. Anthony.
Yeah, just a question. So you implied, or maybe I missed it, that the lawyer is going to help draft up whatever the RFQ or whatever mechanism is going to be used to reach out for developers.
I'm not sure they're going to do that. They're going to give us guidance on what path we should take, what instrument should be employed to do it. So no, I don't necessarily. If we need help with it, we could ask for it.
Okay, got it.
But as with the other two questions, what we're looking for is guidance on how to proceed. If indeed our expectation is met and we're able to apply the funds, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah.
Do we do an assignment, or do we manage it from the finance office here?
Right. Can people hear me? Because I have a mask on, so I don't know if they can.
Can folks hear Anthony?
Yep, all set.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
perfect.
I wish my wife listened to me as much as you guys do.
All right. Well, we haven't known you for that long, Anthony, so stay tuned.
Never seen your face, Anthony.
Okay, there was a question.
Well,
Did you have
another
additional
question?
question?
no, I
okay.
have no.
Okay, good.
You just asked if they could hear you.
We were all listening attentively.
That's all.
See that? Okay. Any other questions on that?
So we're still waiting to get that feedback before even putting it out to anybody.
Well, we've had preliminary discussions
with
Hope.
We had Hope and
Habitat.
Habitat was interested. Hope, it's not quite what they do, or do I have that reverse?
Hope is less enthusiastic about this project.
Right, this one.
Great discussion, and there are other ways that it's very likely we'll be able to work with them. And Habitat, this is pretty much in their wheelhouse. So.
Right. Okay. So, but
No, we don't intend to expand the search or take any action until we actually get some advice on it.
okay.
We want to get it as close to right as possible the first time. Any other questions or comments on that one?
Nope, we'll just wait till the answers come back.
Yep. And hopefully they're good ones. Okay. Moving along then to the standing work streams, community engagement. Bill.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to report. I've been away more than here for the last bit. However, Michael said, at least for now, he was going to be the person who would work with me on, anything that we wanted to put out, either online or in the events of Old Lyme. And so I will work with him on the deadlines to, or at least the next deadline if we're still within that. And I think that something about the legislative, the things that are being considered in the legislative session might be appropriate to have some information out on for the general public. I know it's in the papers, but we might just want to put some stuff, because there's just a lot going out on and every day in the paper. I mean, there's something about affordable housing and about housing shortage and so on. So it will just be a matter of what might be the best mechanism to do that, and so I will work on that.
Happy to work with you on that, Bill.
Okay.
Any questions or comments for Bill? Okay, hearing none. Policy and regulatory. So as Bill alluded to, it's a busy session up in Hartford. We do have one concrete item to discuss here. It's more than just an update. And to help focus discussion, I think I'm going to tee up the discussion with a motion. And I'm going to put forward a motion that the Affordable Housing Commission take a position of opposition to HB 6633 and authorize the chair to communicate that position to the Board of Selectmen and to our elected officials in the Connecticut General Assembly as appropriate. Is there a second for that?
I am a second for that.
Thank you, John. Okay. Now we can talk about it with an outcome in mind. I sent you along the draft of the bill. I forwarded you the Board of Selectmen and to the chairs of the Planning and Zoning Commissions. And I also forwarded you the testimony from RiverCog that was submitted in strong opposition to this bill for multiple reasons that we don't need to fully hash out today. You all have what they wrote, and the Connecticut Council of Small Towns also came out in opposition to it. My own opinion is that I concur with those. I hope we are showing ourselves to the advocates for affordable housing and are showing diligence in helping create an environment where the availability of affordable housing can be significantly increased in Old Lyme. But my own opinion is that these top-down state mandates are not the way to do it and could actually set us back. So I won't get into the details. You saw I concur strongly with the RiverCog analysis that was done by Sam. So that's my take, but I'll open it up for any other discussion. Bill?
This is Jen. I would.
Please.
I'm sorry. I would agree with that, and also kind of add to that everything that we've ever seen from a top-down process just separates and creates a bigger divide in the haves and have-nots, if you will, or the pros, people who are pro or people who are con. And so I think while we're taking baby steps to introduce, our concepts to the town of Old Lyme, I think that anything that comes in and mandates or promotes a top-down approach like that would, adamantly dig people's heels in against something that they aren't yet fully familiar with. So I'd be leery to do that. As a second, I oppose it, period, on its face. But as a second, thing, I would say that it's just going to make things worse.
John?
Sorry,
John,
I couldn't unmute you. Yeah, I'm here, yeah. No, I agree. I think that all the work we put in, they're going to undo. And I think it's a slap in our face because we put a lot of good effort in, and we've and very transparent, very forthright, and moving in the right direction. And this would just set us back, years.
Thanks, John. Lori, any thoughts?
I'm in agreement with you guys.
Thank you, Lori. Anthony?
Yeah, I support the resolution. I would be fully supportive of it for the following reasons, and there's many reasons. I think Betsy Gara and Tom of RiverCog made compelling arguments. If you look at the testimony, which I did, there was mostly opposition to the proposal. I know that Betsy Gara from the Connecticut Council of Small Towns referenced that this was predicated on a New Jersey law. So I have contacts in the housing world, so I called up and said, tell me about your fair housing law. And these are public housing people. So these are individuals dedicated to extremely low-income housing, not middle-class housing, not affordable housing. And they said it did little, it just complicated the matter, delayed some ongoing projects that public housing authorities and other nonprofit organizations were engaged in. And what really was disconcerting to myself and others in the public housing arena is that as the most educated and committed group of people to extremely low housing and low income housing, we were never consulted. No one ever asked our opinion, and no one ever asked for our guidance. And they just drafted this up. And by the way, this is being drafted in many different states. This is not just in Connecticut. It's a huge network. And they're pushing these ideas on a state-by-state basis, like talking points, and it really doesn't take into consideration all the differences in regions, state to state, in this vast country. So it's a sledgehammer when you don't need it to be able to try to force people to do the right thing. And I think that Connecticut is on a much better path than most other legal jurisdictions, states. And last but not least, this is premature. There is going to be a large affirmatively furthering fair housing proposal coming down from HUD. That's being debated at the national level. and this would potentially conflict with it and set up both a preemption argument of state and federal, who gets to do what. So that affirmatively furthering fair housing has been ripening since about 2016. It was put in abeyance for about 3 or 4 years, and now it's taking new life. And so what's happening is that the national housing committees are really engaged in this at a national level, and they're trying to be able to develop comprehensive legislation or regulations, really, and it's going to be a struggle. So I think this idea of state fighting the national is way too premature. Let's wait and see what happens. I mean, we've been around since the early 1600s. I think we can wait another year or so instead of Connecticut to decide what we need to do, and then we don't have to rush forward and think that this is unique to us, because it isn't. This is a problem across the country. And last but not least, and this is my last comment, is that this is not being driven by population. There's an inherent reference when I talk to people that somehow the population of Connecticut is exploding and we have a shortage of housing. That's not what's causing it. It's the fact we do not have individuals who can make enough income. Now, I don't know if that's a problem of the educational institutions in the state. I don't know if it's that we're attractive to states to provide services and support. I don't know, except that it really has nothing to do with head count. It has to do with the fact
Actually, Anthony, that is the case. We have the fastest and quickest benefits of any of the states in the area, and we've had a big influx, according to people that I know that work for DSS from other states. Like, it's an amazing amount of people that we're pulling into the state that are here for benefits.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I agree with you 100% on that. That's what I see, too, on a ongoing basis in the public housing world. So thank you for supporting that statement. I appreciate it. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Your perspective as a housing official is really valuable, Anthony. I took a few notes. I'll carry that forward into the discussion with the other town leaders. Bill?
Yeah, so I concur that this bill that's being proposed is not going. I don't think it's going to do anything to accomplish what it intends. I assume for good purposes that it intends to accomplish, and understand that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work, and top-down mandates don't work. Having said that, and so I concur that we should do this, I'm frustrated by the fact, even reading through a lot of the comments for many of the bills. I devoted myself today to affordable housing and read through, and things that on face value seem to make some sense, and then you think a little bit further and say, well, okay, that's a good argument there. But what my lament is simply that I fear that, yes, we're making some progress. I think Jen said it well. It's baby steps, and this is a huge problem, and it's I fear that baby steps aren't enough. So that's just my internal struggle, that and that left to its own devices, so many of the places you can look at where there's more opposition to this kind of a bill, it's the suburban places, and I get it. I live here. But left to its own, I think there would be a preference to keep the status quo. So we use certain arguments that are cogent arguments, but they don't solve the problem. No, it won't be done with a top-down approach, but on its own, I don't know. Like, for example, I'll just say this and end. Are we as a town, let's just say our town, actively, not just our commission, I mean, are we actively trying to find a place where we could do something to help the affordable housing crisis, even at all levels? Because, even if you had so many, in a complex. And number two, when we will face now with the town, what do I want to say, the overlay district and so on, and having a whole new look to what would be the center of town as a possibility. I see a lot of things in comments that indicate, we don't want to see. No one's saying I don't want to see affordable housing. They're expressing concerns about the kind of housing that could go into a project like that. I guess all of that sort of scares me a little bit. I don't think that, unfortunately, this is the answer. It's kind of a bill, nor many of the things that they're doing now. Of note, I said that was it, but of note, there were some interesting comments about the incentives around transit. Now we don't have the rail.
That's the next.
Okay. Anyway, there were interesting comments that were written about how suitable our towns are for a population that maybe doesn't have cars, anyway, it gave me pause and some things to think about. I rest.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I make, for the record, to help you, just a couple comments to add to the conversation. The tool of choice has been since, I would say, the mid-1990s to meet housing demand is the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, not construction. It is fast, it is quick, it relies on a market-based approach, and ever since vouchers were created in 1974, it really has taken on a life. So that's the tool of choice nationally, not construction. Very expensive, multi-layered subsidy housing is not the first choice. So the question comes, how can the state of Connecticut show leadership? The state, not necessarily municipalities. They have a state housing choice voucher program. It is supplemented with the federal housing choice voucher program. Now currently there are about 36,000 federal vouchers in the state of Connecticut. The first thing the state should do to show leadership is to expand their own state program and adequately fund it in order to achieve the objectives as enumerated in this bill. Let them take the lead. Let them put up the money. Let them show the commitment that the state has, the state legislature, and allocate adequate monies to provide the housing. Then people might follow. You can't be in the rear and say that you're providing leadership from the rear. Ain't gonna happen. So that's what should come through loud and clear. Let the state take the tools they have, expand their voucher program, and more fully fund it to the requirements to meet the housing market demand for rentals in any particular region or area of the state. That's what they should do. It's a money problem, and they need to put more vouchers and to show leadership.
Not surprising. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move to the question. If that's okay, if there's no further comments. The motion was to take a position of opposition to 6633 and to authorize the chairman to carry that position into the discussions with the Board of Selectmen and the chairs of Planning and Zoning for communication to our elected officials. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. A couple of other quick updates on the legislative session. So I had mentioned at the last meeting that there was a bill being put forward that would, among some other things, would allow naturally occurring affordable housing to be included in the count that would go towards the 10% threshold for exemption from 830G. That bill did not make it out of committee. So that's dead. In your email over the next 24 hours, you're going to get another missive from me because I just got some additional materials late today, and I didn't have the opportunity to forward it before the meeting. There is also a transit or TOC, a transit-oriented development bill out there that is a reprise. Both this the Fair Share Bill 6633 and the transit-oriented bill are reprises of stuff that came up 2 years ago, and they're in very similar form. Again, RiverCog and the Council of Small Towns has taken a position of opposition to those because they are also top-down. I don't have much to discuss tonight, but I'll send you those materials, and we'll do another lap around this track next time we're together on that bill. And both of them, by the way, both the Fair Share Bill and the transit-oriented throw us into another mandated planning cycle rather than doing, to your point, Bill.
Right.
So.
And Mr. Chair, just to let you know, the TOD, Transit-Oriented Development, is a federal initiative, and the state of Connecticut, in their planning process, has said north and south is a priority. New Haven up to Springfield. That's what they're looking for, not along 95 corridor. So, and I know that because my community is Milford's a transit-oriented development community, and I got brushed back. They didn't want anything because they said the emphasis to go north and south from Springfield to New Haven and back. That's the primary, through Meriden and so on and so forth, Hartford, whatever.
So that one's still in committee. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, and also I think they did I think have a hearing this morning, and one of the talking points that they had almost omits Old Line because there's three criteria. There's a transit community, a next to a transit community,
transit adjacent.
An adjacent to a transit community, and we actually don't meet any of those criteria because they further define it as 10 units per acre in the most far away from a transit community. So we wouldn't be eligible for any of their grants anyway. So why would we go through the paperwork of giving them information and going through the whole rigmarole when we don't even?
I have to read it more carefully, Jen, and we'll discuss this next time. I don't want to get derailed here, but there is a third tier that basically pulls in everything that's left. But you have density. You still have to have a community density of 10 units per acre. Right. And we don't have that. We'll see. We'll see if it makes it out of committee, and I'll send you the materials, but we'll see what happens in committee. So that's it. Busy. It's that time of year up in Hartford. So that was a lot of discussion, but I think we got to a good place. I appreciate all the thought that went into it. Okay, which brings us to the funding and partnering work stream. Anthony and Jen.
Well, Anthony and I haven't actually met again yet since we talked to Santoro, but I did do some looking into the Yes in My Backyard block grants program. So it does appear that we would be eligible for things like assistance with reducing zoning barriers and land use regulations, but we would still have to have that as part of our plan that we want to have, accessory dwelling units, multifamily development allowable, and where that would be and that kind of thing. So it seems like it might have limited relativity to us as far as affordable housing growth goes, but I'll keep looking at it, and maybe Anthony, you and I can catch up on that next week or later this week.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, Jen, and you have to wait to see what comes through the legislature because there's a lot of promises. We'll see how much cash, how conditionalized it is, where the strings are. It might not even be a string, it could be like an anchor. I mean, we don't know what's going to be attached to any of these proposals that make it through. But you're right. We'll get together, Jen, and we'll see what's going on.
In theory, it's interesting that we could get some funding to help with something that we know we want to do, which is amend zoning regulations to form a more conducive environment for accessory dwelling units, multifamily, things you said, Anthony. But to your point, we'll see how it reduces the practice in the funding arena. Good. Anything else, Jen?
No, I just a note that the Habitat for Humanity of Eastern Connecticut, which is based in New London and serves New London, Wyndham, and Tolan counties, is closing the applications for their latest couple of houses on March 31st. So I can send you the application process if anybody is interested or knows somebody who might be interested.
Should we put that up on the website?
Oh, sure, yep.
Put a link. Let's.
It's a link, yeah. So you could link it to the. It's like a video on how the process works, and then an application for those who are interested.
I'm looking at Bill across the table, and I will introduce you to Kate Balaka, and we'll see how this goes with the new website and the new executive assistant we have. We can blaze this trail together. Good.
Okay.
If you could send Bill and me the link, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll do so.
Any other discussion on funding and partnering? Okay, hearing none. Development opportunities, Lori and John?
Actually, yes. We have. I spoke to Mark Dybel about the project over off of Hatchet Hill there, and he actually has partnered with some folks out of Boston. They're moving forward. They're looking at it from a bedroom standpoint, which is about 250 bedrooms. Sounds like a pretty interesting project. The project he thought would be around $60 to $70 million, and they're all going to be sort of separate little unit type things, like clusters. There'll be a clubhouse. It sounds like it's going to. He actually said he took a lot of time to go over to the other developments, like the Post and Main across from the Monkey Farm, and talk to them, what went well, what didn't. But we should be seeing something coming down the pike very shortly from him. But the name of the project is going to be Old Line Landing, and they're tiering it to be some affordable and then market rate, but it's going to have the shoreline look, sort of, shiplap, clapboard, stuff like that. He really wants to make it look nice and sort of go in the town. But we had definitely a nice conversation, and we'll probably reach out again, in a bit to see how he's doing.
Thank you, John. Anything else, Lori? For John? I have a question on that, but I wanted to make sure that you had finished your update.
I had finished my update. What's the question?
The question is, has anyone touched base with Tom Larson since our last meeting?
I haven't. I dropped the ball on that, and I was just thinking about that when we're here. I'll make sure I do that next week. Okie doke. Good.
And in general, I think for the balance of the year, we want to. What's happening over on Hatchet Hill will be, if it's successful, will be a measurable material impact on the affordable housing inventory in town, particularly in smaller units and rentals, which we need. Mm-hmm. We have some opportunities potentially long-term perking up from the Shoreline Gateway Committee, which I'm sitting on, that could take more of the form of adaptive reuse and mixed use. So I'm just curious, are there any other nascent opportunities out there that we could help catalyze to bring forward? I don't expect that to be answered right now, but we have the town properties. So I think for the rest of the year, I think we all want, not just Lori and John, we all want to kind of keep our ear to the ground to see if there are any opportunities out there that we could, again, not necessarily drive as a project ourselves, but connect the dots and catalyze.
John, what stage is that project at?
Basically, he is with a developer. They're becoming partners. So that's been penned and signed, and they've got the equity in place. So now they are reviewing the actual plans, basically trying to maximize the number of units for the space. Or he's going by bedrooms because what's driving it is septic. So they're looking at how many bedrooms they can have, and then once that's done, he'll be pulling the application to the town and stuff. And I had recommended to him to make sure that before this comes out that he does, let us know, put some stuff on Facebook, just basically get it out where the people realize, that this is going to be a positive thing for the town.
And you said he has funding.
Yeah, he actually has a developer that has a funding wing with it.
Okay, great.
I will be interested to see if this goes under 830G, there's going to be a state filing of an affordability plan. I'll be interested to see that.
And I also.
Yeah, two quick things, Mr. Chairman. If that project moves forward and there's an 8-30G component, that 30%, the city of Old Lyme has to figure out who is going to monitor compliance, that those 30% of the units stay affordable. Because I'm directly aware of 8-30G developments not complying or slipping over time, short periods of time, going back to market rate and not below. So there has to be some kind of a monitoring or enforcement function by the city, because the state's not going to do it. So I think we should look into it. And I think that the Affordable Housing Commission, maybe we've already done this, but are there any state lands controlled that we might be able to make a request to the state to bring into our city portfolio for development?
Don't know. That's a good question.
And we should look at that. And again, ask the state to relinquish control of the lands. A lot of times they've accumulated interests that lay fallow. You don't know the state owns it. And we can ask them to release it to the city for future affordable housing development. But we got to know if it exists and where.
Good question. Very good. I believe there was not an audit, but there was an inventory done of that.
Yeah.
And that part of that is what came up with the 36-1 Button Ball area, because that was when I think that was originally state and then went to the town, and there were some strings attached there. So
Okay.
Yeah, it may be available.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one question, and I don't know of anybody who might know. Has anything of recent, I didn't know if I missed something, come up with the Cherry Stones property?
nothing other than rumors
Just rumors.
that I'm aware of.
It's for sale. Basically, it's for sale, and the current owners are not moving forward. The folks that own Otter Cove, they're in it with their partner, and they are not moving forward. I know that for sure.
What's the Cherry Stone property? I don't know what that is.
It's a defunct restaurant that used to be sort of the epicenter of social activity in town that is now not a going concern.
On 156.
156 on the
On by the shoreline.
That's within the scope of the Shoreline Gateway. Too.
Right. No, somebody asked a question, and I said I don't know. So I didn't know if it was something. So it's for sale, but they don't want to sell. Is that what you're saying?
No, it is for sale. 100% for sale. They had plans they were going to move forward, and then some things they were going to possibly put a sewage treatment plant in 100 acres and some other things. So they decided not to move forward, and then COVID and the world changed, and getting people to run a restaurant. They own another restaurant, and they this is not the direction they want to move in.
So definitely the Shoreline Gateway Committee will be looking at that.
So it's for sale. What they pulled back on is another kind of.
Well, they were going to the restaurant was going to be called the Beach House, and they didn't move forward with that. They had Cherry Stones on the go for a couple of years, and then they have problems staffing that. So, ergo, they're not sure that they could staff a whole other restaurant. So,
okay.
Thanks, Bill. We good there?
Yeah, I am.
Because I want to go back to Old Lyme Landing for a minute and just remind ourselves that the formation statute for this commission calls on us to take an advisory role for the land use boards when there are affordable housing developments going through the regulatory process. We don't have any regulatory authority, but we do have a statutory advisory role in this. And I think since we're still a fledgling commission, and this will likely be the first real affordable housing development to come through the regulatory mechanism of town, I think, John, I think it's really good that you're keeping track of this, and I would encourage us to do so, so that when the time comes that we can exercise our advisory role, because if we don't, then it's going to go away.
Would it be publicly, like testifying before those regulatory?
Potentially,
no. They're going to ask for a permit. They're going to ask for whatever they need to ask for. So it will go through all the steps that we need to go through. I think, I'm not sure how the town is on this, but I know Mark is very communicative. Matter of fact, he thanked us as a committee, which I probably should have said first. I mean, he was, happy for the advice we gave him. But he's talked to everybody, all the other folks, all the other people he needs to in town, and he's done and he's also saying they're looking at other developments to find out lessons learned, what went well, what didn't go well, to try to make this thing something that in a similar setting goes really well.
Yeah, I mean, this would be something that would eventually. I'm sure at some point there'll be some, because the town will have to approve the and at that point, whether it's that might be where it could get a little nutty, but that would be where our voicing the
so is
opinion to that.
Yeah, is the advisory authority, we're proactive with it, or do we have to be invited to provide?
That's not specified.
It's not specified, so we could take...
My sense is, since we've never done it before, it's unlikely we're going to get asked. So we probably want to come forward. And the other point I'm raising is that John's doing a great job keeping on top of this, and it's more than just of interest, it's our job.
No, I will follow this thing all the way through, because that's what my committee does, or my charges, but the work stream. But also the fact is, Mark is very happy to let us in on information, and he wants to be a good steward of the land and good citizen of the town. So he offered that if any of the committee wants to walk the property, he would meet people up there to walk it, to sort of give you an idea what's going on. Apparently the property is covered with walking trails that were there pre him buying it. And he's going to keep those and then build around it, so it has a nice, country sort of shoreline feel.
Good. I think of principal interest will be I'm pretty sure there's a public document, will be the affordability plan. That'll be all.
I would love to have that opportunity. I don't know what we need to do to make something like that happen, but I would love to be able to.
I think we want to let this ripen a little bit before we do that.
Hi, this is Lori, and John, I want to thank you for all the outreach, and I just wanted to say I've known Mark for like 30 years, and I think he is, as you say, very communicative, and he'll be a great leader. And also, I would be interested in walking the property just to get an idea whenever you think it's appropriate.
I think once this enters the regulatory pipeline, I think is when it would be appropriate. That's my take.
I agree. Once they file a permit.
Yeah.
But I also believe that should support him, and when he does file a permit, and if he can give us some information about it, we should put it up on our website, so that if people are asking for information about it, it's very transparent.
Yeah, as soon as he applies.
Exactly.
I do think it's important, because it's the first time, as you said, Mr. Chairman, that it'll be a predicate for what will come in the future. And whatever you do, you better be consistent, because otherwise people will accuse everyone of playing favorites. So whatever we do should be a pattern for what we'll do for years.
Be repeatable. Yep.
Repeatable under our requirement, the state statute requirement that we have an advisory role.
Okay. And I certainly don't want that predicate to be set by silence.
Yeah, I think that would not be that wouldn't be healthy. I think politically healthy to do that. I agree.
Okay. Any other discussion on development opportunities?
Nope. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. That's really useful, and this could be really. I'm not going to say a game changer, but it would have a significant impact on the inventory of affordable housing in town.
I don't want to get too excited, but that small nugget, John, made my day.
It certainly solves a couple problems that we've heard. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rental and lots.
Yep. Okay. Item 7, any other business?
I have none.
Hearing none?
No.
Okay. Upcoming meetings and agenda items. I think we're going to I'll editorialize a little bit. I think the standing agenda format seems to be working okay. It's efficient for me. It seems to, the discussion seems to be flowing. But I'll invite any feedback on the whole, just the architecture of how we're running these meetings. So the agenda items for next month, barring any new business coming before us, will look very similar to this month and the month prior, since we adopted this format. I hope to have a lot more to say about McCulloch by then. More confident that the attorneys are on the case, as it were, and we'll have more information there. We're tracking the old line landing. We've got some work to do with community engagement, so we'll have a follow-up there. Good. And the meeting will be third Wednesday of next month. I have the date in front of me.
I think I have April 19th as the third Wednesday.
That sounds right. Okay. And then if there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
John's got it. Second.
Okay, John and Bill. Any discussion? None? Any question? All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It is 5:57 and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.